Hi, it's Barney from BBC Good Food and welcome to Boss the Basics. Here I'm going to be teaching you how to cook rice. I'm not talking about those microwave pouches, I'm talking about cooking rice from scratch. The first type of rice we're going to be cooking is Basmati rice. This is the way I cook it at home 2 or 3 times a week. This is the way that works for me every time. So I'm just going to run you through it. So you want about 60 to 70 grams of rice per person, and then you want to soak it for half an hour in cold water. So I've taken about 300 grams of rice here and I've soaked it in cold water for half an hour. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to rinse the starchy water off it. Now some people do this in a sieve. I simply do it under the tap, swish it around a bit and then pour the water off, and then do that until the water runs clear. So can you see that the water, we can see the rice through the water now, so the water isn't cloudy. I mean, it's never going to be completely clear, but we've rinsed it 4 or 5 times and that is just what we're after. So one more time and then we're going to pour off as much water as we can. So the next bit I've always done by eye, and I was taught to cover the rice by about 1.5 centimetres of water. So that means you can cook however much you want. It doesn't matter if you're cooking it for 20 people or for 3 people. If you cover it by 1.5 centimetres of water, you're fine. Now, I did measure this earlier because I thought I need to be a bit more precise with this, and it turns out that 1.5 centimetres is about 1.5 times exactly the amount of rice. So 300 grams of rice, and I've weighed out 450 grams of water. So we want it just to be covered by about 1.5 centimetres, which is, as far as I can work out, 1.5 times the amount of rice. So let's just double check that. Boom. There we go. We're going to bring this up to a hard boil with a lid on, and then we're going to stir it once. We're going to leave it off the heat for 10 minutes, stir it again to fluff it up, then leave it again with the lid on for 5 minutes. And that's what works for me every time. Perfect rice. So now we're going to bring it up to the boil with the lid on. So I'm just showing you, this isn't a hard boil yet. This is just coming up to the boil. I want it to boil really, really vigorously. So that's going to need another minute or 2. So this is what I'm talking about. All the water starting to be absorbed, and you can start to see holes in the rice. Now we're just going to give this a stir to make sure nothing sticks on the bottom. Then this is coming off the heat, and we're going to set the time for 10 minutes. So our rice has had 5 minutes more with the heat off, and all you need to do now is serve it. So let me give that a stir, and you will see we have perfect, fluffy Basmati rice, cooked ever so simply. So just to run through, that was hard boil, lid on, 10 minutes with the heat off, give it a stir, 5 minutes with the lid on, and then we have absolutely beautiful, perfect Basmati rice. Next up, we're going to be cooking long grain rice. Now, long grain rice I cook exactly the same way as pasta. So we need to bring a large pan of water up to the boil. It's up to you whether you salt it or not. With rice, I tend to salt it at the end rather than salting the water, but some people salt the water. So you just need to bring a large pan of water up to the boil, and then we're going to boil our rice for about 12 to 15 minutes until it's cooked. 12 minutes is still a little bit al dente, 15 minutes is cooked all the way through, and then we're going to drain it like you would pasta, and then we're going to leave it to drain for about 5 minutes in the colander just to fluff up. So it's as simple as that. Give it a stir so it doesn't stick to the bottom, and then we're just going to leave that to simmer boil for about 12 to 15 minutes. So our rice has been boiling for about 12 minutes. I've tried a bit and it is cooked. It's definitely cooked, and we're just going to drain that in a colander the same way you would drain pasta. All the rice out. So we've left the rice for about 5 minutes and it's just been draining, but it's still really hot. And as you can see, we've got fluffy, long grain rice. So that is how I cook long grain rice. So next up, we're going to cook a pilau or a pilaf. Here I've cooked off some vegetables. It's completely up to you what you want to put in it, but classically it's like cooked onion and then whatever else you want to put in it. Some people put meat in it. I'm keeping this one vegan. So I've put down some onions and some cauliflower and some carrot with some spices, some Indian spices. And the quantities for this are 250 grams of basmati rice and 500 millilitres or 500 grams of vegetable stock. So for this, we're always going to want double the quantity of rice to stock. We're going to scatter in our rice, we're going to pour the stock over, and we're going to cook it on a low heat with the lid on for 10 minutes. Then we're going to leave it to stand. We're not going to stir it, we're going to leave it to stand for another 10 minutes. I'm just going to give that a stir to coat the rice in the spices and just bring everything together like so. Remember, the pan's on like a medium heat here. We're just going to pour over our hot stock or hot water. We want our stock or our water to be hot. We're just going to bring that up to a simmer, then we're going to turn down the heat and we're going to leave it to cook for 10 minutes. So in that goes. Bring that up to a simmer, leave the lid off, then the lid goes on, and then we're going to leave that on a low heat for 10 minutes. So our pilaf has had 10 minutes. I've turned the heat off now. As you can see through the lid, I'm going to take the lid off. I wouldn't normally, just so you can see. The rice has absorbed all the stock, but we're going to leave it off the heat to carry on cooking for another 10 minutes. So just for the sake of the video, I'm just going to show you. There's no liquid left at all. We're not going to stir it. We're just going to leave it for another 10 minutes just to carry on cooking. So our pilaf has rested for 10 minutes and I'm just going to give that a stir, and you're going to see the rice is cooked beautifully and the vegetables are all the way through it. So that is how you make a pilaf. So remember, I think I kind of messed up earlier and said double the rice to liquid. It's double the liquid to rice. Double the liquid to rice. So remember, to 250 grams of rice, I use 500 millilitres of stock. So those are our 3 ways to cook rice. We did the basmati rice, which we just turned off the heat and we let it cook in the absorption method. We've got our long grain rice, which we cook just like pasta, and we've got our pilau or our pilaf, which we've cooked by pouring stock over it, cooking it for 10 minutes and leaving it. This has been Boss the Basics Rice. I'm Barney Desmazri. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget, stay home, get cooking.